While both Lost and Inception were famous for their naughty, complex sci-fi storylines, one iconic Netflix show blended both in its superb, unfortunately brief run. Netflix's adaptation of Three Body Problem proves that the streaming service has no shortage of ambition when it comes to taking on big sci-fi stories. Based on the acclaimed novel series Remembrance of Earth's Past by Chinese novelist Liu Cixin, the show was complex, ambitious, and unapologetically dense, with a huge cast and a diverse array of settings. Although the Stranger Things franchise is Netflix's biggest sci-fi property, many of the streaming service's entries into the genre lean into the more complicated, theory-heavy style of sci-fi better represented by Three Body Problem. This is a style already made famous by Lost's many flashbacks, flash-forwards, and innovative flash-sideways, or director Christopher Nolan's ambitious dream within a dream heist movie Inception. Both these hits proved that a complicated sci-fi premise wasn't always enough to alienate mainstream audiences. One of Netflix's best sci-fi shows ever, the two-season masterpiece Sense8, was a similarly daring series that was unflinchingly intricate in its storytelling. The series focused on 8 main characters from across the globe: Keifius, Sun, Riley, Wolfgang, Nomi, Will, Kala, and Leto, who all realize they are sensates, meaning they are emotionally and mentally linked and thus able to share their sensory inputs, knowledge, and skills through unspoken communication. Since the titular 8-strong band of protagonists hailed from Nairobi, South Korea, America, the United Kingdom, Russia, India, and Mexico, the series jumped from country to country in every episode. Sense8 was one of the most ambitious sci-fi shows Netflix has ever produced. This ensured that Sense8 swiftly became one of the most ambitious sci-fi shows Netflix has ever produced, and the series always walked a tightrope in terms of tone thanks to its ambitiously strange premise. Although earlier shows like Fringe and Twin Peaks introduced network TV viewers to some fairly surreal concepts like parallel realities, mirror dimensions, and alternate selves, Sense8 was a step up again and an early example of how ambitiously trippy streaming shows could afford to be thanks to their comparatively niche audiences. The show's creators, the Wachowskis, displayed the same verve and invention that they brought to the Matrix franchise and 2012's underrated Cloud Atlas to this series, and both seasons of Sense8 were must-watch TV for sci-fi fans. The ways that the storylines of the show's 8 main characters intersected raised fascinating questions about gender, sexuality, and identity, but the villainous Sense8 Whisper's attempts to track them down ensured that the show had no lack of narrative thrust amid all of its high-minded philosophical ambitions. As in their earlier work, the Wachowskis did an incredible job of balancing big ideas and satisfying sci-fi action set pieces in a digestible but undeniably complex and ambitious story. Although later sci-fi streaming shows like Dune, Prophecy would go on to attempt even bigger stories, Sense8's many characters and the complicated nature of the titular Sensates themselves ensure that this remains a uniquely intricate series. Unfortunately, its run was cut short. Sense8's early cancellation cut an iconic sci-fi series short. Sense8 wasn't a cheap series to produce, and the show's ambitious approach to the sci-fi genre predated a lot of major shows that would take their ambitions even further in the years that followed. Although Netflix was eventually willing to shell out record amounts of money to make Arcane in order to compete with sprawling space operas like For All Mankind, Silo, and Foundation, Sense8 arrived a little too early to ride this wave. Thus, Netflix finished Sense8's story after only 2 seasons and a special, cutting short one of the sci-fi genre's most compelling small-screen creations.